But there's levels to this. And we saw that CP3 is on this level, but Steph is on this level. Because when it counted most, who was there? It was Steph. And at the end of the day, when you're looking at the Houston Rockets, don't ignore Mike D'Antoni. Because now if you're looking at Mike D'Antoni and you're looking at the Houston Rockets, you have to look at Mike D'Antoni, you have to look at Daryl Morey, and you have to ask yourself this question: can this system win? The answer is no. Absolutely not, because they never have. It's that simple. Didn't win in Phoenix, didn't win in New York, didn't win in L.A., hasn't won in Houston because the Golden State Warriors are standing in your way. You're looking at the Houston Rockets, and in the end, what it came down to wasn't points. It was, could you get a stop? They could not stop Steph Curry. They didn't stop Klay Thompson. They didn't stop Andre Iguodala. They didn't make any stops when they needed to, and as a result, for the second consecutive year, and the fourth time in the last 5 years, the Houston Rockets are going home, courtesy of the Golden State Warriors.
Stephen A. says the system won't work. Then he goes on to contradict himself by saying they couldn't get a stop. So if it came to them not getting a stop, how does the offensive system not work? Hey guys, before the video starts, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with post noties, and enjoy the video. The Rockets have been one of the most revolutionary teams in the NBA recently, and they have been willing to really experiment different things, such as the way they play offense, which is simply just iso ball. There's been a lot of critics on this, claiming that the other players don't get enough touches since James Harden is controlling the ball for so long, which yeah, that may be true, but the Rockets have been one of the best teams in the league the past few years, and it's not like they have some incredibly stacked roster. Most people's examples as to why iso ball doesn't work is insanely flawed, and here's why. Let's start in the year 2016. So before I even say what I'm going to say, the main thing people say in regards to iso ball is it only works in the regular season, and here's why that's simply not true. So that year, the Rockets go on to win 56 games. They are the second seed in the West. They're actually tied with the Clippers, but they own the tiebreaker, so they were second and the Clippers were third. The Rockets would face the 7th seeded Mavs in the first round. Obviously, they are supposed to win, and they do. They win 4-1. Then the infamous Clippers series comes next, where the Clippers would go up 3-1, and this included wins of 16, 25, and 33 points. While the Rockets' one win was by 6 points, and the Rockets would go on to win 3 straight and advance. This is all with Harden playing super poorly, which should even give you more proof as to how the Rockets' play style actually works. Let's say, for example, LeBron plays poorly in a series of that caliber. His team is getting swept, no doubt, because of all the reliance on him. Then, after that series, they would go on to play the first-seeded Golden State Warriors and lose 4-1. The Warriors weren't some bum team, though. They won the championship that year. So does losing to a championship team mean your style of play doesn't work? Then, in the 2015-16 season, the Rockets just didn't have that good of a supporting cast in general. Their starting lineup was Patrick Beverley, James Harden, Trevor Ariza, I know I'm going to butcher this dude's name, so I'll just put it on the screen, and Dwight Howard. He wasn't prime Dwight, though. Then off the bench, Clint Capella, who wasn't good yet, Josh Smith, who averaged 7 points a game on 34% from the field and 27% from 3, Michael Beasley, and Corey Brewer. This team just is flat out bad, let's keep it real. They weren't expected to do anything until in the playoffs, Curry got injured. There was some hope, but they would still go on to lose 4-1. A 73-win team was who they lost to. So that's completely garbage in comparison. So this season just really isn't a good example because as the 8th seed, iso ball didn't cause them to underachieve at all in the postseason. So we will move on to the 2017 season and playoffs where the Rockets won 55 games. They were the 3rd seed, they beat the 6th seed Thunder in 5, and then they would face the Spurs. This is the only time where I would say they underachieved, and that's totally fine. Teams have had one bad game where they underachieved, but because of one game, their whole offensive scheme doesn't work? I don't think so. So they go on to face the Spurs, and they just barely lost Game 5 to go up 3-2, and instead, this would happen.
Mills and Gordon, and picked up, and that was a good call because the position helps Anderson. Here's Harden, Ginobili's on him. He's got, what a play by Ginobili!
And the Spurs would win that game. Then Game 6, Kawhi is set to sit out, so this looks to be an easy dub for the Rockets, except they played like total ass. The Spurs shot 62% from 2, and the Rockets shot 9 for 38, which is equivalent to 23% from 2, and they'd get blown out. So it really wasn't an underperforming series. It came down to one game, which they did underperform, but I think that just comes to the players not being ready for the bright lights. They played perfectly fine all those other games, so how can you blame them for having one bad game, especially when it's the highest pressure game of the season? And not to mention, this Rockets team isn't some super deep stacked team. Their only star player was Harden. Kawhi has Aldridge, and the Spurs have always been known for having a super deep team. The Rockets bench included players such as Ryan Anderson, Sam Decker, and Lou Williams, who would go on to play a combined 55 minutes and put up 14 points with a plus-minus of -68. Ryan Anderson alone played 25 minutes, scored 0 points, and had a plus-minus of -30. So how can you blame them missing shots on the brightest stage? Because this doesn't happen every game on the system. Then when Harden finally gets him a second star player, which every other contending team had 3+, i.e. the Warriors and Cavs pretty much, the Rockets go on to be the first seed in the entire NBA. They faced the Timberwolves in the first round. They beat them in 5 like they should, and that was probably one of the best 8th seeds in a minute. Then they faced the Jazz. They also beat them in 5 games like they should. Then the infamous Warriors series happens. Yes, the Rockets are the higher seed, but realistically, nobody has them winning. The Warriors have KD, but the Rockets would go up 3-2, being the only team that gave the Warriors team a real run for their money. And then this happens.
Last touch by the Warriors.
They're going to have to take Chris Paul off of the court. Well, they might have to drag him because you know he's not going to come off the court. But he is hurt right now, limping, walking gingerly and slowly to the sideline. Again, look at the play on the other half of the court. This is the most important play of the game because Golden State can take the lead with 40 seconds left.
Then, Game 6, they get blown out with no Chris Paul. Their offense was just adjusting that game, in my opinion, and it was at Golden State. Then with Game 7, they aren't even supposed to be here if their offense really didn't work. They wouldn't have even taken them to 7. But with no Chris Paul, the Rockets still had a chance. Then this happened. And even after all those missed, they lost by only 9 that game with no Chris Paul. And had they had Chris Paul, there's a real argument to be made that they win that series and the title because they would have easily beat the Cavs. So you can't say their offensive style doesn't work, which analysts proceeded to do, especially after this series when they took the best team ever, arguably, to 7 games with their second best player missing 2 games. No other team was able to do anything like that. Hell, the Raptors won in 6 with no KD and with Clay missing half the series. So imagine if they had to face them healthy. Then in the 2019 playoffs, the Rockets would go on to be the 4th seed, beating the 5th seeded Jazz 4-1 again, and then playing the Warriors where they lose by 4, 6, then win by 5 and 4 to put it at 2-2. So this was a super close series with a fully healthy Warriors. Then they lose by 5 to go down 3-2, and KD wouldn't play Game 6, but the Rockets would still lose by 5. Curry went off for 33 in the second half after his team was able to keep him in it in the first half. And we saw it even in the finals versus the Raptors, just how good that Warriors team was, even without KD. They literally could have won had Clay just not gotten injured. So the Rockets losing to the Spurs when they really only had James Harden, then losing to the best team ever and taking them to 7, which nobody has ever done, then losing to the same team again in 6 is underachieving. Not even mentioning Chris Paul not playing Game 6 and 7 versus Golden State fully healthy and then missing 27 straight threes. They have been the only team to even be a threat to the Warriors, so how do they underachieve every postseason? Are they meant to beat the Warriors when literally everyone always has the Warriors favored? I just think a lot of people love to jump on the bandwagon of hating on their offense because it's a new and different style they haven't seen before. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And it's Burry, and I'm out.
Needed to, and as a result, for the 2nd consecutive year and the 4th time in the last 5 years, the Houston Rockets are going home, courtesy of the Golden State Warriors.